Welcome to the Just Baseball Show. You got Jack McMullen here alongside Aram Leighton. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to bounce around a whole bunch of September call-ups on the back half of the show. This is like our Christmas morning when you see all the prospects get up to make a playoff push or make that final impression as you go into the 2026 campaign. Oh, in spring training, this guy can absolutely break camp. We do have some transactions we got to talk about. Couple of contenders made minor league free agent signings after a couple of releases from teams that were trending in different directions. Also have to talk about the magic that is Aroldis Chapman. This guy has not allowed a hit in over a month, and the final wild card spot is up for grabs. Just Baseball Show, as always, is brought to you by the fine folks at BetMGM. It's a fun Labor Day weekend of baseball that we just tied a bow on here. Fish got a great Series W in New York, too. It really does feel like the pennant chases are kind of alive right now. Is Labor Day a certain point for you to navigate the MLB season?
It is, because I think you also have the directions of like every team as well, where it also kind of marks the point of the calendar where teams that maybe even though they already knew they were out of it, really signify it because you get that prospect coming up and they prioritize the reps maybe for that prospect. And then you have other teams, as you mentioned, and we're going to talk about, playing the NBA buyout market, essentially, that we now have in Major League Baseball with the waivers, trying to add whatever little piece they can to push them across the finish line. So I do feel like it's where teams divert here, where you have the rebuilding teams or the teams that are kind of set to go into the offseason already getting ready to look at 2026, seeing on what they have there and really leaning into that side of things. Then you have the teams that are competing, making that final push. And you just see the gap kind of widen between those two.
Yeah, 100%. And you've got some teams that are kind of in limbo right now. Hey, are they pursuing a postseason chance? Are they in a holding pattern right now? Are they seeing that possible postseason chance slip away? And that's where I do want to start, because in the National League wildcard conversation, there seems to be two teams trending in a couple different directions. And we spent 20 to 30 minutes on the Friday show last week of the Just Baseball Show talking about how the New York Mets are back, coming off of a sweep of the Philadelphia Phillies. But lo and behold, those rotation problems that we've been talking about for 2 months, they didn't go away across a 3-game stretch. New York dropped 3 of 4 to the Marlins in New York. Meanwhile, the Cincinnati Reds are playing exciting baseball. They just walked off the Toronto Blue Jays on Monday afternoon in Cincinnati. Since August 1st, the New York Mets, as it stands right now, the Mets, they were under 500 by a wide margin, and that was after they hit, mind you, a franchise record, I think 53 home runs in the month of August. They have never hit more than 50 homers in a single month until now. They led all of Major League Baseball in team OPS in the month of August by about 30 points, but a staff ERA of 5.08 is not going to do anything for you. So since August 1st, the New York Mets have a record of 12-17. Cincinnati has gained a game and a half on them in that point at 13-15. What do you make of that final spot? Is it who wants it less?
Yeah, it's crazy because I thought if the Reds didn't make the comeback that they made on Labor Day, I mean, 4-2, they push them across in the ninth, walk it off. Noelvi Marte with a big hit there to score 2 and walk that off. I would have thought, man, you might be done. Just because it felt like all of a sudden you go to 5 games entering the final month. It's going to be tough. You have a couple more games against Toronto, which isn't going to be easy. And you start it with kind of a heartbreaking one where they were in control for a lot of the game and end up, potentially blowing it. Fortunately, they fought back. But they had a lot of opportunities here over the last couple of weeks to close the gap on the Mets, and they haven't really. And that's the part that's frustrating, I think, if you're a Reds fan. But I'm also just fascinated by this Reds team as a whole. Like, what is this direction? What do they do next year if they come up short? There's so much that I want to talk about with them. But in terms of how they can make this thing happen this year, I really think it's going to take them playing fine. Like, obviously, they can't shoot themselves in the foot. But I think it's going to really take the Mets having this collapse of some sorts that we know they are capable of as a franchise. It's different people every year. So I think it's a little silly sometimes to talk about it. But I do think that the shadow kind of hangs over you and you feel it, right? But I think the pitching situation with the Mets right now is really the only way that the Reds can get back into this, is if they just cannot get outs and they continue to, struggle pitching wise. And I think they know that. And that's why they brought up Jonah Tong, who's going to make another start as well. But a lot of reliance here on rookies. And but I do feel like it's kind of going to be whoever loses it. And at this point, the Mets would have to really lose it to give it up.
Yeah, but they are trending in that direction. And to your point, like we were struggling to see, okay, if they do cough it up, how do they cough it up? And Ryan Finkelstein joined us last week, the host of Locked On Mets, and of course the editor in chief at JustBaseball.com, and he said it's because of the starting pitching. It's because they won't pitch. And I feel like that became even more clear over the weekend. If the Mets do cough up the final wild card spot, it will be because they cannot get good starting pitching. There is a world where they sneak in and they enter a 3-game wild card set with Nolan McLean starting game 1 and Jonah Tong starting game 2. Those two were not on the Major League roster on August 10th.
Yeah.
That's amazing to think about. But Carlos Mendoza said they have to have a conversation about next steps regarding Kodai Senga. David Peterson was an all-star. He's been throwing like a frontline starter. He has had a very bad month of August. It concluded with 2 innings of 8-run ball on Saturday against the Marlins in New York. There's not a lot of endearing qualities right now about the veterans in that rotation. Clay Holmes, do you feel comfortable with him starting a game right now? Manaea is starting to tick up a little bit, I guess, but if you had to name a 3-game wild card series rotation, it's probably McLean 1, Manaea 2, Peterson 3. Do you feel awesome about that?
Manaea wasn't great today. The offense has been amazing, but it's overcoming the pitching. So I don't know. I have no idea.
Again, this team had an 870 team OPS in the month of August. 870. And they were 5 games under 500 in August.
Yeah, that's really scary. Soto's going nuts, and that's huge for them. But holy crap. And also looking at the schedule real quick, they got 2 more games against the Tigers at Comerica. They outslugged them in game 1. Guess who they play for 3 right after a day off?
Cincinnati, baby.
At Great American. If you're struggling to get outs, I'm going to take over on every game there, I think, with our friends at BetMGM. But then right after that, you got a 4-game set with the Phillies. You got the Rangers. You got the Padres. And then Nationals, which you look forward to. And then the Cubs at Wrigley. And then you wrap up with the Marlins, who have just been a thorn in your side to end the season here. So, like, it's going to get interesting. At least I hope it does. Or I think the Mets do have an opportunity to squash this thing. If you take 2 out of 3 from the Reds in Cincy, won't fully squash it, but it would definitely, I think, put them way back on their heels.
We've got a couple of minutes to pivot to the Cincinnati conversation. And you mentioned this team is weird, and there's a lot that you want to dissect there. The question that you posed is, what do they do next year if they come up short this year? And obviously the odds are in the Mets' favor at this point. What do you do next year if they miss the postseason this year?
I think this month, and it's funny, you usually say this for the teams that aren't in the playoff hunt, but I think this month is huge for the Reds to just continue to find some answers as to, who fits in for next year. I mean, we're talking about some players that I think have played so poorly that they may not really be in the conversation for next year. Like, where does Christian Encarnacion Strand fit in? He's in AAA right now. No. Obviously, he's not going to be able to do anything this month to make himself a factor, but that was a guy that a year ago we thought would be a building block here. At what point do you look at Spencer Steer and say, he's hurting us, given the lack of production at positions that he's mostly playing that require, premium offensive output? Brian Hayes was clearly their free agent acquisition in one way. I think they were looking at the free agent, just collection there and saying, here's our spend, we'll add him. But Matt McLean, you're probably not going to move off of. You got to give him another year to really get going here. I think you're looking at the Steers and the Luxes of the world and some of these other guys and saying, who's the guy that we really lock into here? Because I think Sal Stort's going to have a really nice month here. He's been phenomenal in AAA, and that's a guy that you need to circle as potentially a bat that can put you over the top next year. Who are the guys that are going to separate themselves out of those kind of iffy performers so far this season? And I'm very interested to see what they do.
I'm really interested to see what they do as well. I'll throw you a couple of names of guys that I think that, they should be encouraged by. And if there are any others, just let me know. And we got about 30 seconds here. Stewart is somebody that I'm looking forward to watching kind of blossom in Cincinnati. Noelvi Marte is somebody that has been very impressive so far this year. There are other guys in the fold here. Obviously, Ellie De La Cruz. Is there one other name in that lineup that you're circling and saying, you know what, you're a piece of what we're doing moving forward?
I would say it was Noelvi who kind of stood out to me there. I love what Austin Hayes brings to the lineup too, though. And that's a guy I'd love to see them kind of keep around. But other than that, I mean, I'm looking at a few different spots, and I think they definitely need to shake things up.
Alabama, Florida State, years Georgia opened with Clemson, and then Oregon and LSU and Les Miles opened with Oregon and smacked them around. Alabama knocked around USC and Wisconsin and Va-Tech for years. The SEC fears nobody.
Stop it. I love the SEC. Put them on. By the way, if you just had an only SEC college football playoff show, it would be absolutely wonderful. How about that out there, SEC backers?
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
So the Mets, they went through a rough stretch where they were terrible, but, they win the series versus the Mariners. They're kind of turning things around just a little bit. Like, the offense has been there. You said they were in a playoff race. It's tough to say, they need to win. It's like trying to trust teams in different sports at the end of the season. But the hitters are hitting right now. Lean into the Mets, lean into the Phillies. These teams have something to play for, and they're cooking right now.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
I think what you saw last year is it's tough to say, it's projectable, but I do think it's something that when you're taking shots here, you're looking for a bye-week coverage wide receiver on your roster or a guy that has upside who's young enough to grow into more of a role. I think the development of Bo Nix was stunningly good last year. If we can build on that again this year, I think Marvin Mims is a really good selection as the 57th wide receiver off the board.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
What does he do after he hits the home run? He walks over to the fan and he pats him on the back and gives him a high five. This is the same fan that's been going after him for the entire game. Dave Roberts after the game saying, hey, look, every once in a while, it's kind of funny to see Shohei, who's got this wonderful personality that we almost never see. It was great to see him do that with the fans.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
All right, just baseball show rolling on here. Jack McMullen, Aram Leighton. We just talked about the Mets and the Reds, two teams that are vying for the final National League wildcard spot. Now I want to talk about some acquisitions, two teams that are firmly in the postseason picture. And the question is it a World Series or are they looking at this year maybe as a disappointment? And then I've got one other guy that I want to throw you at the end of this segment for a team that is outside the wildcard picture as it stands right now. But I want to start with two minor league pitching acquisitions who signed minor league deals but did get into the organization under the tag. One of them did, one of them didn't. Andrew Heaney just signed a minor league deal with the LA Dodgers. And what Heaney presents for Los Angeles is an opportunity to use his innings through the end of September. We talk about the Dodgers being the Laker equivalent in Major League Baseball. They're playing for the postseason. They want a position where they can have all of their talented starting pitchers ready to go. But I do want to start on the Phillies side because this guy signed on August 31st. Our guy, friend of the program, I would say, Walker Buehler signed a minor league deal with the Philadelphia Phillies. Buehler was in the organization by 11:59 p.m. on August 31st, which means he is eligible for the postseason roster. This guy is one of the best postseason performers we have seen in this generation on the mound. Walker Buehler is trying to find it again. He was removed from the Red Sox starting rotation. He threw out of the bullpen a couple of times. They ultimately released Buehler to get Peyton Tolle into the fold in Boston. This is a heck of a landing spot for Walker Buehler. I saw this, and I was so excited for him. He's going to have the opportunity to pitch meaningful innings for Philadelphia in September. We know they're a little beat up right now, especially with the Wheeler injury, and he can absolutely find his way onto this postseason roster and throw humongous innings.
Well, and I think also plays a big part in helping them get through the rest of this regular season. I mean, I just watched Taijuan Walker get teed off on in Milwaukee before we started to record here, and I just also think going through with a 6-man rotation, which I think is what they're going to do, is effective in preserving some of your guys who you want to have a little bit more fresh for the postseason. But I think about all the conversations we had with Walker on this show about the adrenaline and how much that always helps him. And I think about what the bank could do for him. And I think we'll see him ticking back up to grabbing those 6s and 7s a little bit more again. But I look at the scatter plot, and I look at the stuff. I still think that there's a very effective arm in there. He's still just trying to figure out what that looks like because it's a totally different identity than what it was, prior. But I do think that there's a role that he can fill for this team one way or another. And again, you add that guy to your postseason situation and you're going to be better off for it, no matter what the role ultimately is, because he's proven himself time and time again. Again, he was not good in the regular season last year either, and was integral in the World Series title for the Dodgers. So I'm hoping he gets plenty of opportunity there. I love the landing spot for him though, and it works out well for the Phillies as well. But I think it was a weird circumstance too. Like, I don't think Boston, even though he had been so rough, it had not been good for him. I don't think it was just he's been so bad that we have to release him. I think it was a culmination of circumstances. They didn't have the time to really give him the runway in the bullpen. They needed the roster spot. And
it also seemed like Buehler has earned that opportunity to get out of that situation and go join a better situation for him. And they felt like it was mutually beneficial. So it did feel in part like Boston was going right by Buehler.
And that's what Breslow, and that's what Breslow alluded to. And I think that's awesome, and I think it's cool to see. 31 years old. It's not like Walker's, Clayton Kershaw and 40, but he's done enough in this game. And he's carried himself the way that he does that, a team like the Red Sox, after just a few months of him being there and him not really, holding up his end of the bargain, I'm sure he'd tell you that, still doing right by him and putting him in a spot here where he can help a team win the World Series.
What do you think of the Heaney acquisition for the Dodgers? It really doesn't scream, oh, this guy's going to be eating innings for them in the postseason. It screams, oh, this is a warm body to help us get through the month of September.
Well, I think maybe they thought Roki Sasaki could come back and maybe be one of those warm bodies that could help them. And I think it's more indicative of the fact that they'd probably rather just roll out Andrew Heaney there over a handful of starts, less than a handful, just a few starts in this final month, than put Roki Sasaki in a situation where he'll probably fail, just the way that he has looked in these rehab outings so far. That's kind of the first thing I thought of, because you see Sasaki technically healthy and working back and throwing 75 pitches his last time out in AAA, and you say, well, if you need innings, why not just bring him up? But because I think they're looking at the big picture with him and saying, let's just keep working on things in AAA right now. And I also think they probably don't feel great about his ability to maneuver through lineups right now. And I know Andrew Heaney hasn't been good, but he's usually going to be able to just get through 5 innings and survive. And I think that's ultimately what he's going to be there to do. But honestly, maybe it's not fair, but my mind went to Sasaki and said, I don't think we're seeing him again this year.
For me, just looking at the results from Sasaki, and did I see 0 whiffs at his first rehab start? I feel like that number has not really climbed much over rehab starts 2 and 3. He's struggled 3 times at this point, and it just doesn't feel awesome. So this is a contingency plan for Sasaki. It's also not the end of the world if Roki Sasaki doesn't throw another pitch with the Dodgers this year. This guy was still 3-4 years away from coming over stateside when Yoshinobu Yamamoto did. Like, he came over when Ohtani did, but Ohtani was 100 times the player that Sasaki was at that point. This is Babe Ruth we're talking about compared to a very, very talented pitcher, but he may need some more time. One other guy that I want to talk about here. The Atlanta Braves made an interesting waiver claim. Ha-Sung Kim was claimed off waivers from Tampa Bay. Ha-Sung Kim was a guy that I thought was a perfect fit for Atlanta this offseason, but he opted to sign a 2-year, $29 million deal with Tampa this winter. He's on the hook for about $1.8 million for the rest of this year. Atlanta is for Ha-Sung Kim. He's set to come off the IL. He also has a player option at $16 million next year. If he's healthy and he has a good month, this is their shortstop next year. This is a massive upgrade over Nick Allen.
Well, here's the thing. If he's not, he's still their shortstop next year. No, that's what I thought was fascinating. So the Braves, and we were talking about it all offseason, like, why are the Braves not in on Kim? Why are the Braves not in on Kim? They must have been. And I think it was probably one of those situations where they didn't want to commit 2 years given the health situation that he was in. And I think that's fair. There's a couple guys. I think they were in on Hoffman too, right? And medicals kind of spooked them as well. They would have been right based on the way this year has gone to be spooked by the Kim medicals. But now they say, well, we can get him at 1 year, essentially $17 million, because if you tack on the $1 million for this year, now that's interesting to them. I think they probably didn't want to go on the second year. So I love it for the Braves. You're taking a shot here, but it is an interesting move by them, basically saying, we don't even want, to risk that somebody else picks up Kim. We like him enough that we'll take this 1 year roll of the dice. So I like that from them. And I think even if he is not great, it's going to be an upgrade from what they had. I still think he is going to be good when healthy. And the way they look at it is, okay, we have all off season, hopefully get him right physically and ease him into next year. But I like basically it's a free agent signing for the Braves. 1 year, $17 million essentially.
Here's a tip. Some machines and online games have higher average payouts than others. Want to try to maximize your odds? Well, do some research online to find games which have the highest RTP or return to player percentage. So now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Devon Acham, catfishers are really tricky. I'm not saying he's going to be on the pup list or anything like that, but it is something to monitor. And he is a small running back, and I think chasing last season is just a problem. I can't take him over Derrick Henry at the end of the first round. I think it's crazy. And Ollie Gordon's a player we talked about. Here's the preseason stats for Ollie Gordon, Matt. 26 attempts, 126 rushing yards, 4.8 yards per carry, and a touchdown.
Fantasy only on SportsGrid.
Shohei Ohtani was minus 20,000, I believe, Tom, when we were talking last week. He's down to a minus 4,000, which I still think is fun. I don't know who'd say, now's the time to bet the minus 4,000 here and win some money. Schwarber's a 12-1 price, Machado 10-1, Soto 200-1. It's still going to be Ohtani's award here. They're not playing great baseball for the Dodgers, but I do find it funny. Like, what is the difference between minus 20,000 and minus 4,000? Who knows? Who's got that much money to play anyway?
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
Arch Manning is a 7-1 price to win it. You take a look at Cade Klubnik here for Clemson. He's a 9-1 price. Nussmeier. Then we see Jeremiah Smith. He ain't a quarterback, Joe. He's a wide receiver. Love those wide receivers.
Yeah, Ryan Williams is another one from Alabama. But Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams will battle it out for best wide receiver, potentially leading their teams to a college football playoff.
SportsGrid's College Football Today.
Just baseball show here. Jack McMullen and Aram Leighton. We were talking about Ha-Sung Kim joining Atlanta. We were talking about Walker Buehler. We were also talking Andrew Heaney. But now we want to talk about somebody that is going absolutely nowhere. He signed a 1+1 extension with the Boston Red Sox a couple of days ago. Aroldis Chapman is going to be in Boston, and that is because Aroldis Chapman could very well be the best reliever in Major League Baseball this season. Chapman is, and I say this not hyperbolically, unbelievable.
Yes.
37 years old. This guy debuted in the big leagues on August 31st, 2010. We are just a couple days beyond his 15-year anniversary of his Major League debut. And Aroldis Chapman is putting together, by ERA, the best year of his career. In 53 innings, as we record, he's got a 1.02 ERA, 53 innings pitched, 6 earned runs. He's punched out 76, which is 13 per 9. He's walked just 14. This guy in his career is walking 4.5 hitters per 9. Last year, he walked 6 hitters per 9. He's cut that in more than half. And oh, by the way, in 53 innings of work, opponents are hitting 117 against him, and he hasn't allowed a base hit in 5 weeks. I would ask you what you've seen from this guy, but it's just alien life form throws baseball harder than anyone, and he's done it for 15 freaking years.
And throwing more strikes than ever, as you alluded to the walk rate, but 70% strike rate with that stuff is just incredible. And it's a complete arsenal now. I almost want to see him start again. Like I'm looking at a 4-seamer, sinker, and both of those are at a 70% strike rate. And then you've got this sweeper that he's added that has been otherworldly, and then the split that he added a couple years ago that he's commanding as well. All of them have a strike rate north of 65%. Like, I would love to. Obviously, at 37 years old, you're not doing that. But like, this is the guy that was once a starter. They moved to the bullpen because he didn't throw enough strikes, and you also thought, oh wow, what if we get 100? For an inning spurt from the left side, he could be one of the best coaches in the game, and he has been. But now it's like this is the complete arsenal that I don't know if we ever imagined we'd see. So it's just amazing to see him continue to evolve as he progresses in his career. And the fact that he has allowed 5 extra base hits the entire season is outrageous, and almost 200 plate appearances. Opponents are slugging 170 against him this year. It's one of the more incredible seasons I think we've seen from a reliever in a while, and especially a reliever in his late 30s. And I think really, really exciting for Red Sox fans to already have him, extended through next year. And I mean, this is your guy. This is, and in the postseason right now, if they make it, I don't know who I'd trust more than Aroldis Chapman right now, because when he's not walking anybody and you don't have to worry about the long ball right now, like, how do you beat this guy? I don't even know. He's not beating himself, and you have to just pray that you run into a home run.
You don't beat this guy right now because you're not getting base hits against him. Kid, it's been over a month, and he's been pitching. There's no IL stint here. There's no elongated rest here. He's been pitching on regular rest, and he has yet to allow a base hit in 5 weeks. July 23rd was his last base hit. I heard this great snippet from Buster Olney on a podcast, and Buster was saying there was this epiphany for Chapman. Connor Wong, instead of setting up over the heart of the plate and saying, okay, Aroldis, just like has been happening for the last 14 years of your career, I'm going to set up over the heart of the plate, and I'm going to let you just throw your fastball as hard as you can, and you see where it goes. Wong has started giving Chapman spots, and apparently that has been the key to the command revival for Aroldis Chapman. It's, shoot inside, and Chapman is shooting inside, and he's inside. It's funny because it sounds so simple, and you say, what do you mean? This is the first time anyone's ever tried giving him a spot to hit? Maybe the first time in a while, because you've got 105 in the back pocket. Just go ahead and throw that, and wherever it is, so be it, we'll take it. It is really interesting to me that a simple spot from a catcher could be the key to him cutting his walk rate in half in his age 37 season.
I mean, I guess it really shifted his mindset from thrower to pitcher. And like, even if he's not fully drilling the spots, it's just the thought process of, instead of just throwing this thing as hard as I can in the general vicinity, I'm trying to pitch a little bit more. And I mean, he's pitching. And like, it's amazing that generally works the other direction for a lot of guys. And that's why the sport's so amazing. It's just sometimes things that don't work at all for other guys work really, really well for a guy like Aroldis Chapman. But I mean, that sweeper command is night and day. It's an 8% increase in strike rate on that pitch too. It's just wild.
Aroldis Chapman is steamrolling his way towards the Hall of Fame conversation as it stands right now. And if he throws 2 more very, very solid years with the Boston Red Sox, this guy can absolutely be ticketed there. At this point, 8-time All-Star, has 1 reliever of the year, 2-time World Series champ, and we'll see what this season has in store for the Boston Red Sox. But by WAR on Baseball Reference, he is just a 10th of a win shy of a career best season. That was 2012, his age 24 season, where he struck out 122 in 71 2/3 innings with the Cincinnati Reds. So career revival for Chapman, and we're going to talk career starting next.
The NFL's heaviest player in history cut by Tampa. His name was Desmond Watson. Did you see any the highlights? His highlights were walking up and down the field as opposed to doing gassers, and that's how he was supposed to lose weight, Joe. How about that?
They really tried to get the guy. I mean, they really did. They put a lot of energy and effort trying to get this guy underweight and athletic enough to make a difference, but he just couldn't do it.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
That number last year was a loser, comfortably. Jeremiah Smith in the regular season had 934 receiving yards, 10 regular season touchdowns. He had a phenomenal, and I mean a phenomenal, college football playoff, despite only having 1 catch for 3 yards against Texas. That is how good he was in those other 3 games.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Netflix is back in a big way. They get Home Run Derby. What else is in store?
Yeah, Craig, we told you they had a great shot at it, and if they do. Now, the deal's not done yet because there's some last-minute things. However, if the deal is done, Netflix gets Home Run Derby, Peacock and NBC get Sunday Night Baseball, and they also get the Sunday afternoon package that Peacock originally had 3 years ago, and Roku's had the last 2 years.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Basically, their whole entire year is going to come down to the Ohio State game. I would be surprised if they were to lose any game leading up to that. So them to go undefeated is 12-1 in the regular season. That's a regular season play. So I think that's possible to go 12-0 at 12-1. To win the Big Ten championship, I think is a 9-1 play is a good number to take, because if they're in the game, we can hedge off of it.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Just Baseball Show, as always, presented by the fine folks at BetMGM. Jack McMullen, Aram Leighton. We just talked about Aroldis Chapman. Now I want to pivot to guys that are just starting their career. September call-ups. We've got a bunch to talk about, and that'll take us through the back half of the show. And I want to start with a certain guy that is not making, his major league debut, is not even close to that. September call-ups, the gist is this. On September 1st, rosters can expand from 26 to 28 players on the active roster. Typically, we see a prospect come up, or we see an organizational guy that was on the 40-man roster. Hey, you want a third catcher on the roster? That's fine. Go ahead and do it. You feel like your bullpen has been incredibly taxed? A guy that has been shuttling between AAA and the big leagues. Congratulations, you're back in the big leagues. Help us get through this final month of the season. But sometimes you see a waiver claim and somebody that can actually really help you out. And Toronto decided to link up with an old friend. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa was a waiver claim when rosters expanded from 26 to 28. And IKF is claimed from the Pittsburgh Pirates by the Toronto Blue Jays after IKF was phenomenal for them in 2024. He was acquired by Pittsburgh at the trade deadline in 24, but in 83 games with the Toronto Blue Jays in 24 to start the year, he was a 3-win player. He hit .292, had 7 homers, a .760 OPS, and now he gets to go back there. Before we talk about the wrinkle in Toronto, I do want to say, if they were going to put him on waivers, what are the Pirates doing not trading this guy at the deadline? Same with Heaney. It's unbelievable, and I know we don't have to spend too much time on this.
It's insane. Even if you got a DSL lottery ticket,
better than this.
Yeah, I just don't understand it. It is shocking. And plenty of teams would have given you a DSL lotto ticket for Kiner-Falefa because he's an elite clubhouse guy. He's a superb defender at so many different spots, and he puts bat on ball. I know it's been a bad year from him, but I can imagine the Blue Jays are pumped to add him to the fold here, where they have a lot of different ways they like to mix and match, and just having a guy that now, so if you pinch hit for somebody, but you don't want to have that guy play the position that he pinch hit for, you can now put Kiner-Falefa at so many different spots to backfill there for the defensive side of things the next inning. He just unlocks a lot of different opportunities for them. And then there's just something valuable to having a guy that puts bat on ball coming off the bench. So I really like their bench situation now. When you look at what they offer, and when you have a bench that has Davis Schneider and Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, like guys that do just two totally different things, I love that. And then you have a Miles Straw and a Ty France. It's a really unique team here. But yeah, I mean, the fact that the Pirates just didn't take whatever they could get for those guys and put them both on waivers, I mean, they're just shockingly inept at points, I think, right now. I don't know how else to put it. But I love it for the Blue Jays. This is a really deep bench where you could see pretty much every single hitter on that active roster filling a role.
And if you want to find regularity for him, the answer is short platoon at second, right? Just get Jimenez out of the lineup. It's not like Andres Jimenez is swinging the bat to his full potential right now. So against left, you can put the righty Kiner-Falefa in at second base. Similar to the platoon situation you've got with Nathan Lucas and Davis Schneider at this point. But you're right. Like, there's something so valuable about a guy in September and a guy in October that can just plug in. So you pinch hit. You feel like there's this optimal matchup with a guy on your bench. Okay, you don't have an answer defensively. Enter in the super utility man, and that kind of is Isaiah Kiner-Falefa at this point. Another guy that I want to talk about here, Kevin Alcantara comes up for the Chicago Cubs. What's so weird is Owen Casey, when rosters expanded, was optioned to AAA Iowa at this point. Cubs are a little weird when it comes to this. Obviously, we have seen Kevin Alcantara get up for a brief cup of coffee last year and then not emerge at any point this year. We've seen them do this with guy after guy after guy. I feel really bad for Casey, but what are you expecting from a guy in Alcantara who's back up in the big leagues?
I think Alcantara fills a more specific role for them now that, you have Kyle Tucker healthy and performing again. And I wonder, I mean, you want Pete Crow Armstrong in the lineup every single day, but if he's not starting to swing it a little bit better, especially against lefties, maybe that's a spot where late in games you like the matchup. You could pinch hit, Kevin Alcantara on the short side of the platoon there. I don't think you do that because PCA has been so good, but that could be one area. I just think they wanted also just in general a right-handed bat that can hit lefties a little bit better. And that's something that Alcantara has done all year, right? He's slashing 319, 394, 604. It's a 999 OPS against left-handed pitching this year, and he's a phenomenal defender. In center field when he's locked in. And I think he'd be a little bit more locked in there and be able to play a good defense, up the middle, or I would say phenomenal in the corners, good up the middle. So just having a guy that can do that as well. You think about probably what he's providing compared to Casey, it's going to be a little bit more valuable for what they need right now. And then I think also they probably want Casey getting more regular ABs, whereas Alcantara, I think you can just focus on the value that he gives you with the glove and being able to slide into all three spots. But I think that it's short platoon or just, pinch hitting and being able to fill in defensively off the bench is what I see at least.
Another guy in the National League Central that I want to spend the rest of this segment on here is Sal Stewart of the Cincinnati Reds. And Sal was officially selected on August 31st. So he is eligible for postseason play for the Cincinnati Reds, which is, number one, awesome. Number two, he's an electric factory. I mean, the pregame press conference that he did, Cincinnati clipped it, and they were ready to run through a brick wall. That social media admin there. He said, I'm going to do whatever you need me to do. My position is in the batter's box. So wherever Tito puts me, I'm very happy. Sal Stewart, 21-year-old from Miami, first-round pick of the Reds in 2022, out of Westminster Christian. So I ask you, Aram Leighton, is he the next Alex Rodriguez?
He seems to have the swagger, but no, it's you're gonna hear that probably a lot when people go to check the alumni. I think there's been a couple other big leaguers from there, but
I'll tell you,
Sal's been crushing the ball, man. And I think I would have loved to see them bring him up a little bit earlier, but we just talked about it. They're still trying to figure out who goes where, and I'm curious to see who ends up seeing the reps cut into a little bit. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of different ways you can mix and match. I don't need to see Gavin Lux in the lineup, especially against lefties. I would love to see Sal out there. And it's not like Lux is flashing the leather. So you could still move Steer to a corner outfield, get creative, do what you want to do. But last 40 games entering this call up, Sal's slashing 311, 387, 609. It's a 997 OPS with just a 15.5% strikeout rate. So the guy has just been mashing. And I think the way that he hits the ball, it's plus EVs, hard line drives everywhere. A lot of those are going to sneak their way out in Great American Ballpark. He's my pick to click in terms of guys that are getting called up right now that I think are just going to come out and go nuclear, because it doesn't happen much anymore. It's really hard. I think he's a guy that's going to come up and rake.
So the other big leaguers from Westminster Christian, Sal Stewart just became the 6th Major League Baseball player from Westminster Christian. Obviously, Alex Rodriguez, Doug Mientkiewicz as well, JP Arancibia, and then Dan Perkins and MJ Melendez. Those are the other guys.
Yeah.
You mentioned the season-long numbers for Sal Stewart, or at least hot as of late. This guy in AAA and OPS well over 1,000, closer to 1,100 than 1,000. You say come up and mash right away. Do you say that because you feel like this guy is, in a sense, a microwave? It does feel like from just hearing his conversations and hearing, press media settings, like he is an energy guy, and an energy guy joining a pennant chase is a match made in heaven.
And he's a controlled aggression guy where he's going to swing a lot. I don't think he does it in a way where it's bad swing decisions. He draws his walk still, but he's the kind of hitter to me, swings a fair amount, like controlled aggression in the zone, hits the ball really hard, that before the league has a game plan for him, he's going to feast. And we'll see, but that's what I see. And then you look at the way that he has hit this year, he's crushed velocity, like absolutely crushes velocity, but he's been good against all pitch types. It's really more about executing locations, I think, against him. And that's not going to all come together until you have a larger sample size. And then you put him in that ballpark. I just think he's going to have one of those stretches where he comes out swinging and jolts this team. And I think he's got the ingredients to do so.
Okay. Real quick. You've got about 25 games of Sal Stewart left, or 20 games left of Sal Stewart. Can you give me like an OPS guess, an OP guess?
I'm going to go 875 OPS the rest of the way. Yeah. I really think he goes crazy. I think he goes nuts. I think he comes down to earth next year a little bit through, second half or whatever, but I think he comes out hot.
Okay, so Sal Stewart, you've got a 1050 OPS happening there, but no, man, this is it's really exciting to see what Sal Stewart can do. We got a whole bunch of other September call-ups that we will talk about in a moment, but we will step aside for a moment right here on the Just Baseball Show.
First time on a casino floor and feeling a little overwhelmed? Well, here's a tip. Lots of machines have a free demo mode you can try for practice. So give those slots a spin in practice mode before you start putting down some real cash. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Good news, bad news, but it's the same problem when they created this problem come draft day, right? We all knew you got too many quarterbacks. It's as simple as that. Unless one guy absolutely stinks, then you still have too many quarterbacks, because you still got Deshaun Watson, who's eligible to come off the IR this season if they really want to go down that road again.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid. This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
Just Baseball Show rolls on. We're talking September call-ups right now. Just tied a bow on Sal Stewart. Now, I want to pivot to a pair of catchers. Harry Ford in Seattle, Carter Jensen in Kansas City. Both guys are within the top 100 for Mr. Leighton on justbaseball.com. Let's start with Harry Ford of the Seattle Mariners. He comes up. He is the number 62 prospect in baseball on Just Baseball's top 100. How does Harry Ford fit into this? Because you got that whole MVP candidate at catcher thing going on in Seattle.
Yeah, I think, especially with the playoffs looming, obviously you want to make a push to, get to win the division there and overtake the Astros. But I also think you got to look at Cal, who's slowed down a little bit over the last couple weeks, and say, maybe we get him out of the crouch just a couple more times in this final month. He could still DH for you. I don't think you have this crater now with how much Ford has come along defensively. So I really like Ford just being able to get Cal out of the crouch a couple times a week, where instead of having a backup catcher, you've got a fun young prospect who, one, will benefit from the reps, but two, I think is going to give you a little bit more than your traditional backup catcher. Yeah, you may have some growing pains, things like that, but he's had all year really to continue to get ready in AAA, work with a lot of different arms that have got the bump back up to the big leagues. And I think Ford being able to just work back there is good for him long-term, but also I think is going to help preserve Cal a little bit, who has been asked to do as much as anybody in Major League Baseball this year. So I like that side of things. And then it's really underrated just how good of an athlete he is. So that is a guy that down the final stretch and into the postseason, he can be, a speed up guy on the base paths for you. He can be just a really solid pinch hitting option for you as well. He makes that bench a lot more dynamic. So I think that's ultimately what it's going to be, but that's what he's there to do. It's all hands on deck. He's gotten plenty of reps already this year, almost 500 plate appearances. So I think it's okay if his reps get cut into a little bit, given the fact that he has caught a ton this year. So if he's playing just a couple times a week and then coming off the bench plenty, I still think that's a really helpful addition to this Mariners ball club.
So something that goes incredibly underappreciated as it pertains to the Seattle Mariners, and if you listen to the show all the time, you've definitely heard me talk about it. Their scouting director is Scott Hunter. Scott Hunter is as effective at nailing the first-round pick as pretty much anybody across Major League Baseball. I saw this note from Mariners player development on social media. They have first-round picks from 5 consecutive drafts in the big leagues now. Logan Gilbert from 2018, George Kirby from 2019, Emerson Hancock from 2020, Harry Ford from 2021 now, and Cole Young from 2022. That does not happen around Major League Baseball. Guys get traded. Guys don't pan out. It is amazing to see the track record of Seattle Mariners early round draft picks. So tip of the cap to Jerry DiPoto, tip of the cap to Scott Hunter, the scouting director. They are amazing at what they do from a draft perspective.
It's a testament to the development too. I mean, it's not like all these guys have just cruised on a linear path to the major leagues. Harry Ford
has been very alinear. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say there's points where Ford, I was very skeptical at the track that he was on when you looked at the defense and the batted ball quality. Emerson Hancock, through points, I didn't even know if he looked like a depth arm for them. Now he looks like a solid relief piece potentially for them, but a guy that's plugged in and still giving them meaningful innings. And that's probably the weakest link of them there. And then you can talk about the other guys who have all just made huge leaps as they've progressed through and even continue to progress at the big league level. So, I mean, the Mariners are the gold standard, I think, at drafting, but they also have developed, quite well as also.
Yeah. Another guy we should talk about here, Carter Jensen of the Kansas City Royals. And Kansas City is sort of kind of in the mix right now, but they call up a guy that has been very, very good in minor league baseball so far this year. He was making mincemeat of the minor leagues at this point, and he was even better in AAA. 68 games in AA, Carter Jensen, the Royals catching prospect. 68 games with AA Northwest Arkansas. Hit 292 with 6 homers. And then he jumps to Omaha, AAA level, 43 games, hit 288s with 14 homers. He had a 404 on-base percentage and a 1051 OPS. This guy has been one of the better hitters in all of minor league baseball to this point. Oh, by the way, he's made strides as a catcher, and that's why he is the number 35 prospect in baseball, according to you.
This is, I think, the most underrated raw power in the minor leagues. Average exit velocity of 93 miles per hour. There's only a handful of big leaguers, and I understand that's in AAA, but there's only a handful of big leaguers that are posting, higher numbers than that. He is getting into his power consistently, and then you're seeing that start to really translate now into the game power and slug. 55% hard hit rate is stupid. And that's why he's hit 20 home runs this year. So we'll see if he can get up there and immediately provide a spark. There could be an acclimation process, especially for a catcher prospect. But one, great reps for him as the Royals look towards next year. And if they don't make a run this year and are still going to be favorites to potentially make the playoffs, assuming they make a couple more additions as well, because it's a good young team. But two, he can be that microwave for you, given how hard he hits the ball and how talented he is, to maybe jolt this lineup a little bit. So I love it. And again, Sneaky, just 22 years old, and he won't turn 23 until July of next season. This is a really good prospect, and I'm glad he's getting some opportunity now because he's cut the strikeout rate down big time.
Are you in the never say never camp as it pertains to Kansas City right now? They're 3 back of the final wild card spot. Seattle currently holds that. Texas has won 5 in a row, 8-10, so they're 2.5 back. But then Kansas City is right there at 3 games back of the final wild card spot. It feels like Seattle is the better team at this point. But can Jensen possibly be that jolt to get them to cut a 3-game deficit in half in 2 weeks? Maybe entirely in 2 weeks.
I don't think it's crazy. Because also, they've got that Caglione guy coming back off the IL as well. And I know he wasn't good at the major league level, but now you've got 2 irons in the fire of elite power that, just one of them, go nuts. If both of them do, then a different story here. But I think the reset for Cags is huge as well. But you've got 2 guys with huge power that from the left side that could just get hot for you. And you think about how top heavy that Royals lineup is and some of the guys that they've been rolling out there consistently. You don't need Cags or Jensen to be going nuts. If they're just giving you above average offense, it's going to be a big, I think, jolt from what they were getting from some of the other guys that were getting consistent ABs in the back end. I still think they can do it. And the Royals the front office gave that team a little bit of an indication that, hey, we believe in you. And I think that goes a long way for the final month when everyone's getting tired here and slowing down. that, hey, we went and got Mike Yastrzemski. Hey, we went and got Grichuk. I think this team still believes.
And there is something to be said about them putting together, in a weird way, like a 2K team of, hey, there's excitement here with Caglione. There's a ton of excitement here with Carter Jensen. And I'm totally with you, man. Like the acquisitions of a Mike Yastrzemski. It's not 2K-ish in terms of likability and watchability, but it gets the job done. So we'll see what Kansas City can do in the AL wildcard picture. Surely Jensen will have a say in that. Back to wrap in a minute on the Just Baseball Show.
This is the moment every fan waits for. The countdown's over. The road to kickoff has begun.
Play is here to stay.
I'm not going to name names, Kevin.
From win totals to player props, from division races to MVP debates, we've got eyes on every camp and data feeding 24/7, breaking down every angle across the league. Every pick, every edge, every line that matters. SportsGrid. Your road to kickoff starts now.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top-flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame, and it gets on my nerves. Like, for me, being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like, I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs, and your team can make the playoffs.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
There's no way you're going to have a team with 63 wins and two other teams with 55 and probably another two that are between 49 and 52. So there's got to be some pullback a little bit, right? Under 62 and a half wins for the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Betting above the rim, only on SportsGrid.
The sharpest football contest show in the land, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, focuses on Circus Sports Million, Circus Survivor, and the Westgate Super Contest, handicapping the games and releasing our contest picks every week of the season. With two former Super Contest winners, Brady Cannon and James Salinas, a former NFL player, Mike Pritchard, and over $1 million in contest prize money won combined, the Las Vegas Football Contest Show will have you prepared this season like none other.
Three more guys to talk about as it pertains to September call-ups. Just Baseball Show, Jack McMullen, Aram Leighton, taking you home through the final 6 minutes. I do want to talk about George Valera in Cleveland for a minute before we wrap with some depth, because George Valera has been a name that we have been obsessed with since 2021.
Yeah, this is one of those names where, like, I realize you and I have been doing this with each other for a little bit now, right? Like, where we've talked about George Valera, the borderline blue chip prospect, to George Valera, the guy that I think got non-tender. Did he not? I'm trying to remember what the whole process was. Did they sign him back? And then here we are several years later. He finally gets an opportunity, and still somehow, by the way, he's still just 24 years old. I am really happy for George Valera, because health has been a challenge for him, and results have been inconsistent, and here he is getting a big league opportunity.
So they DFA'd him. He then elected free agency, and then he re-signed 3 days later in November of last year, November 24, a minor league contract with an invite to spring training. So he was DFA'd. He was taken off the 40-man, and they brought him back on a minor league deal, non-40 type deal. That was how that worked. But George Valera also spent more time this year on the injured list. That has been the problem for Valera, but when he has been on the field this year, he's been really good. 44 games in the minor leagues, of course, some of it on a rehab assignment in the ACL. He was amazing on the ACL. But 44 games in the minor leagues this year, hit .318 with 19 extra base hits and an OPS just under 940. So Valera, they are getting a pretty fun bat here in Cleveland, and we'll see what that can do for him. It's just a massive barrel tilt. It's a beautiful swing when he connects, but then you look at upstairs fastballs and you say, are you ever really going to hit those?
Yeah, that is the tough part. But when he connects, it is so smooth. There's a world here where he's a bulk platoon guy. I think there's a world where he can hit right-handed pitching well enough and fill a big league role. In 31 games this year, AAA, against righties, 311, 380, 500 slash line. So small sample, but it's 100 plate appearances. So we'll see. And still, again, just 24 years old. I'm glad he's getting up and getting the opportunity. And Talent hasn't been a huge question, but yeah, that is a really loud move, and I don't know if it's going to work consistently enough, but he looks a little bit more hitterish right now.
We got about 3 minutes left here. Two guys that are just Mr. Everything that come back up and they will fill in any role as needed. It's like the younger version of Isaiah Kiner-Falefa. I want to start with Ha-Seong Kim of the LA Dodgers, who was the free agent signing from the KBO this past offseason. He can really do everything. He's a base stealer, too, was dealing with some injury at points. There really wasn't a spot for him on the Major League roster for a minute, but with rosters expanding, this is just another iron in the fire to have on the bench.
Yeah, I was kind of shocked at how well he started because I think when we went into the season, I said good piece, but I was concerned about the batted ball quality and just how aggressive he could be when I was looking at some of the video and data from before he came over, and got off to this really hot start, came back down to earth a little bit, but they don't need him to be anything more than a utility guy for them. And when you look at what he was doing in AAA over the final week there before he got back up, here's the game logs by position. Left field, shortstop, DH, center field, shortstop, left field, second base, left field.
Come on.
We just talked about the IKF thing. Copy paste with even more, I think, components to where he can impact the game for you and more speed. And he comes into a situation here where it's just a nice player to add to the fold. But now with the versatility of Alex Freeland as well, like they've got a lot of guys that can move around the diamond, which I think is helpful, especially down the stretch.
100%. Last guy we got to talk about, Luisangel Acuna with the New York Mets. He is back up. 28 games in Syracuse. Hit 303 with a 730 OPS. 79 games in the big leagues this year. No homers. Hit 239. Wasn't really walking at all. He doesn't strike out. This feels late game defender-ish to me.
Yeah, and speed up, right? He's going to get that big stolen base for you potentially, and that is a role that's important. We always talk about like Gerard Dyson and what he did for the Royals. Yeah. But he's been swinging it really well of late too. And I think that was a big part of it. I mean, I think it was 5 of his final 7 games before getting back up were multi-hit performances. And before that, he had a lot more multi-hit performances as well. So it seems like something kind of clicked for him offensively. He'd been red hot in that regard. And you add just a speedster who can play all over the diamond. It's just another bench asset for you, which it'd been kind of a rough year for him offensively. So riding a little bit of a hot stretch here. They have been defending like crap. So having him in the fold there too, I do think helps, especially for late game defensive replacement. Forget the speed up. There's some guys right now that I don't want defending in the 9th inning the way that they've been playing defense. So the fact that Acuna can play a good shortstop, solid center, a great second, a good third, they need that.
Yep. That was the Just Baseball show. Every link you need is in the episode description, including the link to join our Discord. And if you're joining us on SportsGrid, please be sure to check that out because our Discord community is as strong a baseball community as I feel like there is on that platform. Constant communication through that Discord all the time. Also, great merchandise on justbaseball.com. Check out the wonderful written work over there. No show out on Wednesday. We will have a show out on Thursday. That's Aram Leighton. I'm Jack McMullen. Remember to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and thanks for watching us on YouTube or with our friends at SportsGrid. We will talk to you on Thursday.
Playing online blackjack and want to try upping your odds? Well, here's a tip. Cheat cards tell you statistics for whether you hit or stand on every move. If you're into stats, this could be your ticket to winning. And it is totally legal. Now, go get lucky. See you in Las Vegas. Let's get lucky.
The Pirates use that thing, Joe. It's like once every 15 years, we'll hope for the perfect storm with lightning in a bottle, then we'll try to rebuild it again. Enough, man. In this day and age, with the prospects that you can certainly have by stinking every year and top-flight talent like you see in Paul Skeens, it's just a shame, and it gets on my nerves. Like, for me, being a Phillies fan, I think it's hilarious. Like, I never want Pittsburgh to be good. Why? Not because it's a rivalry. It's just a team you don't have to worry about in the playoffs, and your team can make the playoffs.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
The NFL has ruined the concept of trade requests. It's not real. It's just a negotiating tactic. I'd appreciate reporters changing the language because in the NBA, when a player requests a trade, they get dealt. In the NFL, nobody actually thinks it matters. If Jacoby Myers is going to buck that trend, and if Jacoby Myers is going to get traded, We'll see where he goes.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Hopefully starting in 2027, where I think the schedule could just completely get blown up, which would be so exciting for the fans, the players. So there's interesting things that I've heard that that would be like one of the first things that could say that people are talking about, and that things could really get changed up a little bit.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.